Brooks' top 5 prospect lists. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Are you a parent of a 2 to 8-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month, then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensated for their testimonials, sponsored by Age of Learning.
Getting your guaranteed maximum refund with TaxSlayer feels like discovering a refund tree has grown in your backyard.
I'm the refund tree.
Sawing off its branches.
Hey.
Feeding them through a wood chipper.
My branches! My beautiful branches!
And dancing in its refund rain. Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. How are you today? Getting ready for another big week of sports here. We had a KU game late last night. If you stayed up, we'll get you back through it. If you didn't, no worries. They win on the road. We've got that. We've got some Chiefs talk today coming on Sports Daily. Felix Johnson, our Chiefs insider, joins us next hour. We'll go over that expanded salary cap, how the Chiefs might use it. It's all coming for you here over the next couple hours. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Kester, Max Power in producing for us today. We've got some giveaways for you, your opportunity to get on a fancy cruise, your opportunity to win some HTO. It's all coming for you here on a Tuesday morning. Glad to be here with you, Tommy. Good morning. How are you?
Well, we got to get the coffee going. It was a late night last night. I don't know. I was thinking about this as the game was going on last night. It was 10 o'clock, or a little bit after when that game tipped off here locally. But even then it was after 9 o'clock local time out in Boulder. Like, that's a late tip even there when the game is actually going on. Who's in charge of scheduling this? Can we get this changed in the future?
Well,
that was ridiculous.
It was too late, but they're trying to hit 3 windows. It would be better probably, and this is the first time we've had this year. It would be better if they could get 2 slid, time zones over into that. And look, if collectively between KU and K-State we do that one time a year, but we gain the window for the Pac-12, I'd say it's probably worth it. But if you're going to get 3 games in, which was their goal, 6, 8, 10 o'clock, it's kind of what you have to do. Before that, Texas Tech Houston was incredible. That game was fantastic. I was watching that as just kind of waiting, to get to the KU game. But by the way, Tech is who KU plays. Maybe 2 of their starters will still be out like they were against Houston. Man, they're really good. They lost last night, but they were missing two starters. It's late. I'll take that trade-off. I think having the Pac-12 has been good enough that if that's a part of the reason, and if that's a part of the reason the Big 12 can get a bigger contract, and we got to do that one time a year, maybe 2 times a year.
Throw it on a Saturday. Do it on a Saturday night or something.
Yeah.
But Monday night, that's rough.
But the whole point is Big Monday, right? The whole point is to extend and put, it's, it's not fun for us, but again, it's one time. If this was every other week, that'd be a little annoying. One time, thanks Prairie Fire Coffee for contributing here this morning.
We're leaning on it this morning.
Yeah. It's, but it's there. And at least it was the Colorado game too. That's the thing. Like, what if that was Arizona? And then everybody's got to stay up. Right now, it's like, it's Colorado. I'll fiddle around. We'll see how they're doing, and then we'll buzz out. But KU gets it done. We'll get into that in a little bit. I deep dove basically the last 12 games for Kansas since this all sort of started yesterday for the TV side of things, and really pulled out and tried to just figure out if there was some outliers. So we'll get into what I found there in the next segment. But they get it done. They get a win They get a win 71-64. It's a road win, which they haven't had in a very long time. Very long time. Not since the beginning of this month. They lost their last 4 on the road. So just at the very base level, they got a road win. Great. Right now, what do you do with it? And they enter this stretch, Tommy. We talked about this a lot Friday, not even on purpose, where they took those 2. Now, what do they need to do over the next 3 to restoke any confidence in this team going into the NCAA tournament? So we'll get into all of that today. The Chiefs mentioned Felix Johnson's going to join us. We'll have insight and thoughts on this salary cap number. I've been thinking about it a lot as we get that number, and then we don't hear anything for a while, right? Because free agency doesn't start for another 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks and some change one way or the other. We're getting a lot of combine news. Shedeur Sanders isn't going to throw. Abdul Carter's not going to do anything. So we can get into those stories. That's kind of where we're stuck right now in the NFL calendar, is that kind of stuff as we get ready for the draft. But the free agency part is not there. Still rumors of, who's going to be traded or who wants to be traded and all of that stuff. But we kind of need that calendar to turn. And of course, that includes the Travis Kelce deadline, which we've talked about a whole lot. But you can always go back and listen to any of those conversations on the Odyssey app, by the way. But it is it's college basketball stage right now as the NFL sort of waits. And last night, KU got a stage, Tommy, albeit at 10 o'clock at night, that they kind of got all to themselves. And I think that's good for the Big 12. We have to fall on that sword, but it's good for the Big 12 that this is the contract and they're playing these games out there, even if it is late, I think.
Well, I want to go back to your point about the NFL. I wanted to add this. Daniel Jeremiah, who is, pretty prominent draft insider for the NFL, had a post yesterday where he is anticipating that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see quite a few extensions from players on different teams, primarily because the draft isn't, particularly strong this year, and that the free agent pool isn't incredible either right now. And so he anticipates that there will be quite a few extensions done with some veterans that, are maybe out there that you're not sure if they're going to hit free agency or exactly what that's going to look like. And then also the other benefit to that for a lot of teams is being able to restructure contracts, free up cap space, that sort of thing. So he's anticipating in the next couple of weeks that there's going to be a fairly decent amount of players getting extensions with their teams. So we'll have to kind of wait that out and see exactly what pans out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. It would make me wonder who would now restructures for the Chiefs. I think there are a few candidates. Extensions for the Chiefs. Well, that would be something. What if Travis Kelce came back and said, you know what? Let's go 2 more years. And we'll do it at $10 million a year. Like that's probably what'll happen. I don't even know who I would. I think there are a lot of restructure candidates always when you have big contract players. Extensions, though, are interesting. We'll have to start racking my brain here on that. I mean, Trent McDuffie, but that's going to cost you. It's not going to save you money to extend him. It's got to be somebody that isn't on a rookie contract. That's interesting to think about. I'll have to think about that on who that could include for the
Chiefs. A couple of other guys that they could potentially extend if they wanted to. Leo Chenal is available for an extension. Brian Cook is available for an extension. And then a couple of cornerbacks, if you wanted to go that route, and Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson, those guys you could potentially extend if you wanted to. Those guys are all eligible now for contract extensions.
Well, it all helps. Look, it all helps because they have big potential free agents that they've got to sort through. It's not the biggest priority of the offseason, but it's a top priority of the offseason. And
you mentioned McDuffie. McDuffie's on that list. Karlaftis is on that list. You could extend him too.
But you're not going to save money extending those guys because they're still on their rookie deal. They haven't gotten their big deal yet.
You're right, but they're eligible for contract extensions if the Chiefs want to go that route. Not saying that they will, but at least they're eligible now for that.
And not knowing I'd have to look at their caps. And we could talk to Felix Johnson about all this. Not knowing their cap situation next year, is it more advantageous to do those deals now or to wait? You can franchise tag probably either of those players. Maybe McDuffie more than Karlaftis. I'm not sure you want to be paying Karlaftis as one of the top 4 or 5 pass rushers in football. But McDuffie, I think you could absolutely do that with a tag next year, and it all has to fit together, right? And that's where Kelsey's a part of that. Kelsey on the books this year, is he on the books next year? So it's all going to come in a different order, but we'll get to it all. We have Felix Johnson next. When we come back, though, let's talk about that KU game last night. Stay up late. If not, we got you covered. Sports Daily coming right back.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20-plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20-plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lives from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
KFH.
Your legend begins aboard the Disney Destiny, the all-new ship from Disney Cruise Line, sailing November of 2025. Log in and listen to KFH and Odyssey for a chance to win a trip for four to set sail on the Disney Destiny in this national contest. All you need to do is listen for an hour on the Odyssey app. Find out more at kfhradio.com. You can keep entering there until March 9th. Good luck, everybody. Welcome back in. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Caster, Max Bauer producing. He's taking your calls at 869-1240. Thanks for listening to us over the air on 97.5 FM, 1240 AM here on KFH. Thanks for listening to us on the Odyssey app whenever and wherever it is that you do that each and every day. And thanks for watching us on our video streams. 12 News Connected. We've got you on YouTube. We've got you on X. You can leave your comments there. We're talking KU now. Did you stay up late with them? That's okay if you didn't, because we'll cover it right now. They beat Colorado. They beat them by 7 points. It was right at the line. Let me go back, Tommy, before we get into this game specifically real quick, at what I went back basically. Here's what I did yesterday, because we talked about it and I got curious. I went back to the game that they lost to Iowa State, which was on January 15th. That was sort of the start of all this. They lost by 17 points on the road. And in that stretch, that's sort of, to me anyway, that's where this really unraveled on KU. And there are some obvious things, like they were really good at home and really bad on the road. That's pretty obvious. But, it bears sorting itself out a little bit. They only won during that stretch going into last night's game. One game on the road against TCU at the very beginning of that. They only lost one home game, the double overtime loss to Houston. So at the base level, no surprise. KU's really good at home. They're not nearly as good. In fact, they've been bad on the road. So it's like, okay, that part's obvious. So let's go in a little bit and see what it is. Well, another pretty obvious one is that they're much better offensively at home, like much better. 15, 16, 17 points a game better at home than they in the wins, essentially, in the wins than they have been in the losses. The one that stood out to me more than anything else is how bad defensively they've been on the road. As you look at like how much better offensively they've been in the wins than the losses, they have been equally bad defensively in the losses than they have been in the wins. Something like the difference of 66 points a game in the wins defensively to 81 points a game in the losses during that stretch. The defense isn't traveling. That's the by far biggest challenge for this team, is just how bad defensively they've been on the road, which, by the way, makes absolutely no sense. Defense travels. Defense doesn't matter whether you're playing home or road. Like, that's what doesn't make sense out of this. It makes sense that they're better at home offensively than on the road. It makes no sense that they're that much better defensively on the road than at home. A couple of the other ones that I hear a lot about, turnovers, basically the same. There's essentially no difference in their wins and their losses to the rate at which they turn the ball over. It was around 12 or 13 times a game. And the other one that was interesting to me is three-point shooting. How surprising is it if I told you they take more threes per game in those losses, Tommy, than in those wins? We hear a lot about three-point. Now, they shoot it they're 10% higher in their shooting percentage in the wins than the losses, but they're taking more threes in the losses. That tells you what? It tells you they're probably settling for bad shots when they're shooting them at that much lower a clip. But the thing that jumps off of the screen is how much worse defensively they've been on the in the losses than in the wins. And essentially, it's home to road, right? That's kind of where it's been, which tells you their defense just hasn't been going on the road.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned the three-point shooting. I mean, yeah, settling for bad shots for sure, but then I also think desperation probably plays a big role in that. I mean, that BYU blowout on the road, they were playing bad defensively, and they weren't able to get their offense rolling the way that they want, and they were launching up threes, just trying to find a way to get back into it. So I mean, that doesn't surprise me. With the defense, I mean, I go back to the stretch, the very end of January and early February, when they first off blew that lead to Houston at home, and in the last 30 seconds of the game, ended up giving up 92 points in that overtime loss. But then they followed it up also at home by giving up 87 to a UCF team that they shouldn't have given up 87 points to. And then they follow that up with going on the road to Baylor. And that was the game where they gave up 60 points in the second half on the road. So that 3-game stretch of basketball really, I think, is a microcosm of what you just listed out, what you talked about, in a little 3-game set overall, consistently throughout at least conference play. It doesn't surprise me that those are the stats that you lined out.
Well, and if you go back further, here's where it got different, right? So it's not even that this is a symptom of this entire season. This is a symptom of when things have sort of spiraled on them. Because if you go back, let's go back to NC State, for instance. In those games leading up to that Iowa State game we talked about, they gave up 60, 53, 61, 48, 55, and 40 points. They were playing great defense no matter where it was. They had 2 road games mixed into that at UCF and Cincinnati, where they didn't even give up 50 points in either one of those games. So they, at one point this year, their defense was traveling, right? It wasn't like they weren't playing good defense.
And we were having conversations at that time about, is this the identity of this team, to be a lockdown elite defensive team? And then everything just kind of sort of fell apart for them.
But it fell apart defensively, right? Like that's been the difference. And I say all of that to go back to, man, that's solvable, right? They're always going to be a team that when they're not playing at Allen Fieldhouse doesn't make offense easy, right? Because they don't shoot it at a high clip. Last night, it was fine because Hunter Dickinson flexed for the first time in a while, like he can. But they're never going to they're not going to all of a sudden fall into easy offense and do things offensively that they're not capable of, quite frankly. But the defense falling off makes no sense. That's effort. That's buy-in. That's attitude. That's all of that stuff because they're too talented defensively to have been playing this poor defensively going down the stretch. So yes, when we see, and this goes into last night, 7-point win, fine, don't really care. What I do care about is that they only gave up 64 points on the road. And the last time they only gave up 64 points on the road, let's just look. You got to go back. We're going all the way back here. It looks like
Cincinnati game, right?
It's going to be the TCU game. They gave up 61. That was the last before last night. That was the last road game they won. So for the last 2 road games they've won have been because they played good defense on the road, basically. And the other 4 that they played on the road where they didn't, they lost. It's pretty clear what needs to change for them. And it's that they have to just play defense no matter where they are, which is not a big ask, right? That's not something that should be hard to do. And so here we go. Down in this last 3 games, once you get through the next 3, Tommy, none of them come at home. And I haven't gone through and pulled the numbers of all their neutral court games this year, but they're not going to be at Allen Fieldhouse, which means their offense isn't going to come as easy, which means they're going to have to play good defense, which they should be able to do every single game.
And don't you think that, at least I had this thought, after the game last night, that a 7-point win at Boulder on the road, when you're holding Colorado in their home arena to 64 points, that's more impressive to me than boat racing Oklahoma State at home. In that environment, and I know that Colorado has not been great this year, but they had won 2 of 3 coming into that game. They beat Baylor over the weekend, right? And so they were kind of trending up, and they had hung close with Kansas in Lawrence the last time they faced off. So I think being able to go on the road in Boulder and get a 7-point win and have that defense travel with you, that's a more impressive victory, and something that I am probably going to hang my hat on a little bit more and feel a little bit more optimism, at least in the final 3 games, than I was after they beat Oklahoma State by 34.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And that's, I've always had a hard time saying this team's at least not capable of winning a couple of tournament games because they should be able to go be the better defensive team on the floor, with the exception of Houston, every single time they take the floor. That's what they're capable of. And it's not a lofty goal. We've seen it this year, right? We've seen it A lot this year.
That's what's made it so freaking frustrating.
I know.
You know, like watching, I remember going back to the game in Manhattan when it was KU K-State, and K-State won against Kansas inside Bramlage. And I just remember watching that game, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world is this the same KU team that was able to be so locked down defensively early in the conference season, towards the end of the non-con, like back around Christmas, New Year's, all of that, because that was their identity. They were doing that. And then I'm watching that game against Kansas State, and that wasn't the only one. There were others like this, where they were providing zero resistance whatsoever defensively. Like I remember in that game, Kansas State could get whatever they wanted, and there was literally nothing that Kansas could do to stop it. The BYU game, it was on full display. It was absolutely on full display for the world. And, credit BYU. They shot the ball.
There was so much lazy in that game.
But I'm like, how in the world is this the same team that, held Cincinnati to 40 points, held UCF to 40, whatever it was? Like, how in the world is this the exact same team? Because the personnel is the same, but the effort is so lacking right now. And that's, I think, for me, I know last week, I was very much so like, this team has nothing. Like, there's nothing to me that shows that they can turn this around. And I think it was because of just the lazy defensive effort, where I'm like, what in the world is happening here? Like, they act like they don't care. They show that they don't get. And the fact that they were able to travel defensively to Boulder last night, I thought Flory Badunga had a great game defensively. Even though he didn't score, I mean, he still had 3 blocks, 3 steals in the game. I mean, he was an impact in 14 minutes. Like, I thought he was an impact player off the bench defensively. I just think overall their total team defensive effort was great.
Well, and it's so strange too, because it goes back to something we've pondered just with Badunga, is because Hunter Dickinson was the offense last night. He's like all they could do, right? But Badunga gives them so much more defensively, that even if you see that in that short spurt, you got to find, and KJ Adams obviously brings you something defensively. There just has to be a way to let Badunga be the guy that, if it's not, if you're not getting what you need, let him come in and be your defense guy. I'm fine with that. And, as he goes down the stretch in his freshman year. Now, the one thing and the one trend that you've brought up a lot of times, that's a good one that does not get solved in either of the last 2 games, or does not look rosier, is that they haven't played particularly well against a good team in a long time. They haven't played a good team, like a really good team that they've looked good against, since February 3rd, which was the big win over Iowa State. Since then, anytime they play a good team, which I would say at K-State at that moment when they had Coleman Hawkins, good team, big loss, right? BYU's a good team, big loss. So we still have 3 games to see that trend change, because you're playing the top 3 teams in the conference down the home stretch here. And I don't think
really when, other than the big Monday Iowa State game at home, when was the last great team that they beat? I mean, you probably have to go all the way back to November when they beat Duke. Honestly, that's probably the last time. I mean, they played Missouri.
Yeah, probably
Missouri,
so.
They lost in the non-con. Yeah. They anytime in the conference season that they played a ranked team, other than the one win against Iowa State at home, like they've lost those games. They lost to Houston. They lost to Iowa State in Ames. It's been a minute. It's been a while.
Let's even say played well, and then you could say the Houston game, because they did play well against Houston. It hadn't even been win. It's just been play good, right? Like they haven't even done that. So that's the opportunity now for this team and this group. That begins Saturday with Texas Tech. You've got a stretch Saturday at Texas Tech, a short turn at Houston next big Monday, and then a long stretch back home against Arizona. I would still say if they can just get one of those, I'm going to feel a whole lot better about them going into the postseason. Arizona, to me, seems like the most gettable on senior day. But yeah, look, if Texas Tech is still hobbled on Saturday, the way they were last night, and Texas Tech showed up last night, even with 2 starters out. Texas Tech is a team that, if they're healthy, will win tournament games. Like, they are built for this. Houston obviously is. And Arizona's good. So you got 3 opportunities here to sort of buck another trend. You traveled your defense. Congratulations. You brought the effort and energy against Oklahoma State. Congratulations. You checked those 2 off. Now go beat somebody good, because it's been even longer since you've done that.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to just glaze over the fact that Hunter Dickinson looked like an All-American last night.
Sure
and
did.
that's extremely important. I mean, he hasn't been consistent in doing that sort of thing. Now, is he going to put up 32 in any one of the final 3 games? Probably not. Like, that's, probably unrealistic.
I don't think they want him to.
True. But I mean, in the game last night, I know that he was the offense, but I think that it wasn't like they were desperate and they couldn't get anything else going. And so it was just Hunter Dickinson. I think that was a key mismatch that, Bill self-identified, and they were able to kind of feast on that a little bit. And when you've got a guy in that position that can, put up that number of points on that clip of shooting, I think that's the important part too, to recognize, is that he was incredibly efficient shooting the basketball last night. And so that was really, I mean, if he did 32 points on, 20 shots or whatever, I'm not sure it would have been that much more, impressive, but he was 13 of 18 and 6 of 10 from the free throw stripe. So, being able to be efficient in that regard and put up those points, I think that's important. And even though he's not going to probably do 32, in any one of the final 3 games, getting him going at this point, I think is really important. We've needed to see Hunter Dickinson flex. And now the question will be, can he be consistent? Can he be that consistent offensive threat on that kind of efficiency shooting from the field? Because they're going to need him to do maybe not quite that in these next 3 games, but if he can be, I don't know, 6 of 10 from the field, or 7 of 12 from the field, or 8 of 12, like, that's going to be great for Kansas. And that's what they need him to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Hunter Dickinson isn't going to do what he did last night, I don't think. There are weird outliers about last night's game.
No, he's not going to do that, but they need him to be, regardless of the number of points he finishes with. Man, again, he was 13 of 18 from the field. He needs to shoot that percentage, even if it's a fewer number of shots that he takes.
Yeah.
He's got to be in that percentage from the field. In the final
he can't miss. I agree. And I do think he obviously has to be a big part of the offense and the most consistent part. But they won't win a lot of games where the script goes the way it went last night. Now, what I haven't done is gone back through, listened to Bill Self after the game. I don't know how much of that's just kind of what they had to do, or if it was by design. I'm not sure, because there were weird outliers last night. They were dominated on the boards. Colorado out-rebounded them big time. Now, Colorado has some beef, right? But so does KU. KU shouldn't be getting out-rebounded like that in any game. One of the things that KU has struggled with this year that we've talked about a ton, getting to the free throw line, that was as effective at the line as they've been, at least by attempts. They didn't make enough of them, but they got to the line a ton. That could really help this team. Like, if the offense is going to rely as much on Dickinson and they're getting to the line, okay. But getting to the line has been one of their big challenges this year. So, I mean, at the end of the day, are they going to win any more games where it's like Dickinson and nobody else really does anything? Or even, are they going to win many games where none of the guards score, essentially? No, I don't think that's going to happen for them. They're going to be in trouble. We can continue this conversation as well as many others. It's Sports Daily. We're rolling along on a Tuesday. Don't go away.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Is the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Hey, you want to win some HTO? You can do that right now. Text to win. All you got to do is text the keyword T, T-E-A, to the short code 20357. That will get you a free iced tea, regular cup, 26 flavors. You can enter once per day. Message and data rates apply while you're in there. You got to try the new Poppy crossover drinks. It's 3 different Trop Poppy, Peachy Poppy, Dirty Cherry Poppy. There are people going nuts for them. They're delicious.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
Trop Poppy.
Trop Poppy.
Peachy Poppy.
Peachy Poppy.
Dirty Cherry Poppy.
Dirty cherry poppy. Okay, got it.
Dirty cherry poppy.
Dirty cherry poppy.
Nice.
Dirty cherry poppy.
Okay.
And yeah, there are 3 different flavor combinations that it's a crossover thing. They're cool. Not eligible for the coupon, but still delicious. Try them out and get your free tea while you're at it. Again, that's T20357. A little shade first from Chris on Twitter as he sends a Ben Simmons gif and says Zeke Mayo on the road, which is funny, but
rough.
not very nice.
Come on, Chris.
Feeling it this morning. And then Rick goes way deep in the bag to tell me, isn't K-State a great team? Now, that's an obscure reference to a conversation we had, I don't know, two weeks ago about whether or not K-State. And let me say this in self-defense. I said that version of K-State or that team that we saw in that streak is a great team. Without Coleman Hawkins.
I think you said they're a great team. I think you said just in general, without any other kind of qualifier.
I said this is a great team that we've been seeing. Yes, that version of them. And I still don't,
but okay.
I still don't. We'd have to go back and listen exactly what the words that came out of my mouth. This is totally off subject, and we'll see because they're not going to do anything if they don't have Coleman Hawkins. K-State at its best, they showed us for 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, like by every metric out there, like they were playing better than any team in the country. They can be. They just haven't been consistently, which is their problem. They're not going to be, though, if they don't have Coleman Hawkins. There's no doubt about that. We'll see what happens with them. I hate that they're going to have. They're obviously in tournament or bust mode now. But can they get Hawkins back as they go tournament or bust to make that more entertaining at the Big 12 tournament? I hope so. Because they're fun to watch when they're playing well. KU is too, in a very different way though. Like KU fun to watch when they're playing their best basketball? I suppose Oklahoma State's their best basketball, and yes, that's fun, but that's not the realistic best version of K-State or KU that we're going to get in the big games. I don't think so. Is it fair to say that KU will not be a fun watch when they're playing their best? I think that's kind of fair. They're not going to shoot it particularly well. It'll be old school offense through Dickinson down low, and they're going to play ugly, nasty, in-your-face defense. And if they're going to win some of these big games, they're going to be games probably in the 70s or lower. So is that fun to watch? It's certainly more fun than watching them give up 91 to BYU.
Yeah, well, I think the best possible scenario, the best case kind of game for Kansas is a combination of the Oklahoma State game and the Colorado game.
Yeah.
If you can combine both of those together and you can get shooting from long distance, you can get your guards to actually be able to, get it done offensively, and of course Hunter Dickinson. But then you also have kind of the lockdown defense that we saw last night against Colorado. That's the best case scenario. That's when you can see Kansas playing like a preseason number one. We just haven't seen it consistently. And it was kind of a tale of.
We've almost never seen it.
Well, you have to go back to the very beginning of the season to be able to see that when they beat, teams like UNC and Michigan State and Duke in that regard. They were shooting the ball pretty well at that point, and they were able to, limit those other teams defensively. So I think that, it's been a while. I'm not projecting or predicting that they'll be able to do that by any means. I'm still relatively pessimistic about the overall outcome for this team, just because it's kind of like fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. I'm not willing to put money on the fact that they're going to all of a sudden get it all together, because it's been such a long time since we've seen that from this team. Yeah. But I do think that the potential is there. But I think that I'm more optimistic after last night and the defensive effort last night than I even was after Saturday's onslaught against Oklahoma State.
It feels Sweet 16 or bust to me at this point. It just real quick, and this isn't even the intention. You brought this up, and I just pulled these up. So let's look. I think the two best wins of their year outside of the recent stretch are Michigan State and Duke. The Duke game, Hunter Dickinson, remember, he got in weird trouble in that game.
He was in trouble in that game.
He wasn't good at all in that game. And they still found a way to beat Duke. They hit some threes in that game, shot almost 50%. So you saw it, that way. And then Michigan State was probably out before last night, Dickinson's best game of the year, where he went for 28 and 12 and had the high shot volume. And maybe if nothing else, that tells us there is versatility in the offense. They can do it in a variety of ways, which is probably really good news, honestly, and that they can adjust that within a game. And again, it just sort of tells me like what the team is capable of if they will just not be so bad defensively in these losses. They have room to do different stuff offensively.
Yeah, if they can get locked in and get focused, and that's been a major factor. That's not just like
which does not make
that's
sense.
Legitimate from Bill Self saying like this team has had a really difficult time locking in, even on non-game days, locking in, practicing well. I mean, like you even go back to there have been multiple games recently, especially even to an extent, the Oklahoma State game, where they didn't start off very well at all. Like you think about the big holes they've dug themselves in games like the BYU game and the Utah game, like that entire road trip stretch was, not great for them in that regard. But even Oklahoma State played them tight for the first, 5 or 6 minutes of that game before Kansas kind of flipped a switch offensively and turned it on and put up 52 points in the first half. Last night was different. Last night they jumped out to a big lead. It's been a minute since we've seen that from this Jayhawks team. And so that's extremely important for them. You cannot, especially in the final 3 games of the regular season against 3 top 25 opponents, you can't dig yourself in a hole early on. You've got to come out swinging from the opening tip. And again, that's another, I think, fairly optimistic sign that they were able to get that done last night against Colorado.
And Oklahoma State. That's 2 games in a row, and it's been a long time.
They didn't start off particularly well against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State hung with them. They midway through the first half they did, but it was like 18-16 early on in that game.
But I didn't get the sense in that they were flat. If that makes any sense.
It wasn't flat, but it took them a little while to be able to pull away, and that's okay. They did.
That's okay.
They did.
Long as, but like in some of these losses, they've come out flat, right? They've come out with no energy, not inspired at all. I think that's look, if Oklahoma State sticks around for 6, 7, 8 minutes in a game, that's all right. But it can't be like it was against BYU where they're doing what they're doing because you're just flat not trying hard. It does not make a bit of sense that a team as experienced as Kansas ever does that, right? Like that should never happen. That's been the most maddening thing of all of it. So there you go. I mean, look, this will be a fun 3 games. I mean, you can call it fun if you want. I'll call it fun because I'm so intrigued to see if this team can get even close to back to the way we saw them the first month and a half of the season. They're going to, I mean, it doesn't get any tougher than the schedule they're about to play. Like it'll be I'll bet you money it's the toughest 3-game stretch any team plays across the country.
And I think that you touched on a really important point. And I think you used the word versatility, with this team, at least offensively versatility, and the potential is there. It's whether or not they'll actually do it, but that's different than the way this team was a season ago. I remember all the conversations about how, especially going into the NCAA tournament, Kansas was very, very, very matchup dependent. It depended on the kind of opponent that they played, on whether or not they would have success or not. Even though this team has not performed up to expectations, even though, I've even been super pessimistic about them, they're not matchup dependent. I don't think they're matchup dependent nearly at the rate that they were a season ago. They have different ways that they can beat you. Like they've shown that. They just haven't been able to do it again consistently. So I guess that's a positive.
It's a huge positive. It's a huge
That's what's been, again, so maddening with this team is that it hasn't been an issue of whether or not they've got the talent or the firepower to do it in different ways. They certainly do. When Zeke Mayo is firing and hitting well, great. Diggy Coit's been able to do that at times. Great. Of course, Hunter Dickinson and Cage, like they have all these different weapons to be able to get it done. They're versatile in that way. They're not matchup dependent. They just haven't done it. They just haven't been able to show that they can actually get that done.
It goes back to what we talked about at the end of last week when I have to hold out hope that they can win a couple tournament games. I think last year it was so obvious that they weren't going to be good enough, right? They just weren't going to be good enough. It just didn't have the talent to get it done. That's never been an issue this year. It just it hasn't been. They're good enough. They're good enough to beat anybody. And I don't even say that like tongue in cheek. Like they're legitimately their best game is good enough to beat anybody. Their best game was not good enough to beat anybody last year. It just wasn't, right? That's not the case this year. The case this year has been, can they get their best game or anything close to it? That's been the challenge. But we've seen their best game lots of times. And in moments this year, we've seen that high-level game, that game against Iowa State, that game against Duke, that game, you can cherry-pick those all over the schedule, and if you translated that game against, I don't care who you put it up against, Auburn, they'll beat them. And that's what makes it really difficult going into the tournament. And if you don't believe me, if you think Houston's the best team in the country, and I might think Houston's the best team in the country, and I know they didn't, but Kansas should have beat them, right? Like, it was really bizarre mistakes that cost Kansas that game. That wasn't that they were outplayed. It wasn't that they should have.
They didn't execute.
Houston.
They didn't execute in the right way.
At the very end of the game, right?
End.
On a silly little dumb thing. I hate that we ignore everything else that happened in that game and focus only on an absolute mental mistake at the end of the game that cost them the game. They didn't hit a couple free throws. They had a bad inbounds play. Like that. But for 98% of that game, they're showing you that, and I know it was at home, but they're showing you that they can beat what I consider the best team in the country. So what does that mean going into the tournament? Well, I don't know, because they've been so wildly inconsistent. That makes them impossible to predict. Last year, they just, like, we all knew it last year. Like, they're not good enough. They're not good enough. And it was okay. Like, they're not. What can they do? That's not the case this year. They are good enough to do whatever it is that they're going to do based on how they play. And quite frankly, I really do think now it's just how they play defense. If they play good defense, their floor is as high as anybody's. They just haven't done that consistently. We'll go into the second hour here. We'll talk a little more about Wichita State, K-State. We'll get some Chiefs news for sure with Felix Johnson. That's coming up in the next hour. Don't go away. More Sports Daily right after this.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily. Glad to be here with you on a Tuesday. It is Jacob Albrock, Tommy Caster, Max Power hanging with us. You can get in touch with the program. You can call at 869-1240. For those listening to us on KFH, if you're listening to us on the Odyssey app, you can push the little microphone button and leave us a voice message. And if you are watching us on 12 News Connected, YouTube, X, you can leave us comments there as well. Glad to be with you here as we make our way into hour number 2. Felix Johnson coming up in just a few minutes. We'll talk Chiefs specifically as it comes to an expanded salary cap and the ways they might use it to attack and some of the deadlines coming up. We've got the combine happening right now. Let's spend a few minutes with some of the combine news, Tommy. No surprise, I don't think that Abdul Carter is going to not really work there. Why would he? I wouldn't either. If I was him, if I was somebody advising him, I would say, nope, you're good. You're probably in everybody's brain right now as the top pick. There's not really anything to gain for Abdul Carter, but something bad could happen, certainly. Shedeur Sanders is the one I want to talk about. Shedur's apparently not going to throw. I have had this thought that he's going to go into the combine and show people a little more about why I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback and sort of wow them at the combine a little bit. But he's not going to throw. And I find that one curious because I do think he has a lot to gain by going through that process. The one caveat there with the combine and these quarterbacks is we've seen this a lot lately, Tommy, where quarterbacks would rather just go do private workouts for these teams. So it's a little trickier, I think, with the quarterback position to evaluate whether these are good or bad decisions in going into the combine like that. I will say, though, that one surprised me because I do think getting him out there and watching him work that way is going to be good for his draft stock because I think he's physically better, I think, than some people fear. I think he's physically got everything it takes to be a quarterback.
Well, you mentioned that he's got a lot to gain. I think he's got a little bit to lose too by not throwing. I mean, I think that he could potentially, and I've already seen this a little bit in the last couple of days, he's projected, a little bit lower in the first round than what I had anticipated he would be. I mean, even Cam Ward, as of right now, according to Mel Kiper, is projected to go above Shedeur Sanders in the draft. He's got Cam Ward going to the Browns, I believe, pretty early on in the draft. And then you've got, Shedeur Sanders kind of falling down the board just a little bit. I've seen a couple different mock drafts where that's the case. And I don't know. I mean, that's the crapshoot with the combine. You could go out there and kill it and improve your draft stock. You could go out there and not look good and not have good results in some of the different metrics, and that could ultimately hurt you. So, look, I understand this thought process of let my play on the field do the talking, and I'll talk to teams, I'll interview with them, whatever, but I've got enough film on me that I don't need to go and do anything else. I get that. I understand the whole pomp and circumstance around the combine and, maybe even why players decide they don't want to participate in that. But I do think in the case of Shedeur Sanders, he's probably got a little bit to lose as well, by sitting it out. I really think that.
I do too. And he'll work, I assume. I haven't seen it yet, whether he'll like physically do drills and work for teams individually. I also don't know if this is and the other thing that makes it a little strange with him is, remember, at one point Prime was like, well, yeah, we're only going to go to certain teams and kind of play in that game. So I don't know if there's any of that involved in this either. So that makes it a little interesting. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think he's making a good or a bad decision. It's just I didn't see it coming. Right. I don't know that it's a good or a bad decision. I think they're all strategic decisions. And there are reasons to do them and not do them that go a little above my pay grade on why you would or you would not. I would think for him, though, he has more to gain than to lose. So I'd need a better understanding of the thought process to not doing it. If it's as simple as, well, we only are going to go to a handful of teams anyway, so we'll just go work for those teams. Whether I disagree or agree with that, I disagree with that, by the way. It would make more sense, right?
I mean, right now, Kuiper's got Shedeur going seventh overall to the Jets is where he's got them, or where he's got him going. And Cam Ward, right now, second overall to the Browns. So he's got Cam Ward going above Shedeur Sanders. And you know what? Look, I guess the question is, are any of the teams, above number 7 outside of the Browns really seriously going to look at a quarterback, much less look at Shedeur Sanders? Is there a possibility that one of these other teams, below that would want to trade up and get Shedeur, or can he raise his stock? Can he get higher up potentially than number 7 by actually throwing at the combine? I think that's the big unknown.
If the Giants are sitting at 3, the Giants are interesting because they're trying to save jobs this season, but they're sitting at 3 and you have such an obvious need at quarterback, which of course the Titans do too. That's kind of it though, until you get down to the Raiders at 6, the Jets at 7. Then you got to keep going a while. I think the Saints would like to try Spencer Rattler. He kind of got good reviews last year and watch enough of him to have a strong take. And then you got to go, I guess the reason I bring all this up is who's trading up this year that needs a quarterback. Like I don't think anybody's trading up a long way. Maybe the Saints are the lowest team in the first round draft order that would be doing it. The Jets but what we keep hearing,
the Cardinals maybe look at, trading up for maybe
I don't think
alternative to
so
Kyler
yet.
Murray.
I don't think so yet. It's just like
The
with all that,
Seahawks could potentially trade up. I mean, I don't know what their status is on Geno Smith long
Geno
term.
was good last year. Geno's been good 2 out of the last 3 years. I just don't know. Like I guess my point is like a lot of these teams feel like they could probably just stand pat and just kind of hang, right? That need a quarter. Like if I'm the Raiders, I've thought Shedeur to the Raiders all along. I still think it. Unless somebody takes him first. But I think if the Raiders are picking at 6 and Shedeur or Cam Ward, whichever quarterback they like better, is sitting there at 6, they're going to take the quarterback. I mean, you'd be at 6.
I know it's only one big board. But we're talking Mel Kiper here. That's what I've got pulled up. He's got Ashton Jeanty going to the Raiders at 6 overall.
That doesn't make a lick of sense. And I know they need Josh Jacobs' replacement, but come on. Like you're not Ashton Jeanty needs to go to a team that's already good, that's not going to like split his backfield. That's what they need. Like that's what he needs. That's what the league needs. As much as I don't want to see it happen, like he needs to go to the Cowboys, right? Where's the team that's willing to run it 25 times a game, that's willing to give all of those carries to one guy? Like the Cowboys is where he fits.
I don't know.
The best.
The one thing I'll say about the Raiders, though, is I'm not sure that Pete Carroll at 98 years old or however old he is, I'm not sure he's going to want a rookie quarterback, whether it is Shedeur Sanders or not. He's kind of in win now mode. He doesn't have a ton of years, I think, to do this. And so I think that if you had, like, let's just say Jeanty in the backfield with Brock Bowers, who's a stud at tight end, and then you go and you bring in a veteran quarterback, whether that's Russell Wilson and you have a reunion between him and Pete Carroll or any of them, Sam Darnold, any of them, that's probably a more plausible path, I think, for the Raiders than them going and drafting a quarterback. So I do understand, if they don't go quarterback, if they don't go Sanders, why they would want to do that.
But isn't Jeanty and Russell Wilson the same thing as Garoppolo and Josh Jacobs? You know what I mean? Like, isn't that kind of the same thing? I don't know that that's what, if they were closer to winning, I would say, heck yeah, go for it. I'm not convinced that they are close to winning yet. I
don't think they're close to winning either. I just think that with the age of Pete Carroll coming in, they hire Pete Carroll to win now. They don't hire Pete Carroll to win
but he's
5 years from now. That's not.
He's fountain of youth guy, right? Like he's young at heart. I don't know. I'm taking, if I'm sitting there at 6, I'm taking Shedeur if he's there, because I do think, I don't know about Cam Ward. I think Shedeur Sanders has a chance to be like, I'll call it a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, which eye of the beholder, right? Because a lot of guys sit out, but you know what I'm saying? Like above average NFL quarterback, top third NFL quarterback. I think he's got the ability to do that. I think the things that he did that impressed me the most in college, and maybe this goes into the decision to not go to the combine, are things that you're not like trackable statistically. Like Shedeur Sanders was successful despite getting slaughtered behind an offensive line. That translates. That matters, because in the NFL, you ain't getting clean pockets. Doesn't happen, right? Like it's just not you're. If you do, you're one of the few and fortunate in the league, because it doesn't happen. So knowing a guy can thrive in that kind of pressure, like that's the kind of stuff that I like for Shedeur Sanders that translates. I think he can throw fine.
Let's say that Shedeur goes to the Jets, and they either trade up or they stay at number 7 and they're able to get him. He falls to them. I mean, a Shedeur, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson combo would be a lot of fun. I don't know how many games they would necessarily win right away.
Sure. Yeah.
But they'd be explosive. It would be a lot of fun to watch with those 3.
And then it comes into this prime, really want his son to go. If he's going to get involved, are the Jets the team that he's going to want him to go to? Probably not. All right, when we come back, we'll talk Chiefs as we roll into some NFL conversations. Felix Johnson, our Chiefs insider this offseason, joins us when we return on Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
KFH. And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
And we welcome you back in here, that Chiefs insider, Felix Johnson. You can follow him on X at Felix R. Johnson. You can find his work at Arrowhead Addict. You can find his work at Field Vision. Felix, since the last time we talked, more money to play with for the Kansas City Chiefs and every NFL team. It's good news, I think, for everybody that the salary cap goes up, unless, of course, you're the Bengals or the Cowboys, and it just means you have to pay your star players more than you would have had you done the deal last offseason. But I don't think that's the case for anybody the Chiefs are dealing with here. More money, like, we should be excited about that, right? That might mean keeping one more player maybe than we thought they would. Or is it just semantics and everything stays the same?
Well, I think the songwriter once said it's more money, more problems. But I think, like what you're saying, in the Chiefs' case, it is opening the door to keep potentially like Nick Bolton. They've already re-signed Creed Humphrey, and in the same draft class, in the same round, in fact. Are they going to try and recap and bring back Nick Bolton, who's one of the top 10 guys when it comes to threat or havoc in our Field Vision metrics? And so it's kind of interesting to see what the Chiefs are going to do in free agency. They're never as splashy as we want them to be. And now with a few more $1 million, I don't know if it's going to happen. But with restructuring Patrick Mahomes' deal, and now I think the franchise is reinvigorated, obviously, after losing the Super Bowl. There's more gumption within them to try and do something this offseason.
We talked about this to kick off the show this morning, Felix, that Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network had a post on X yesterday where he basically talked about how in the next week to 10 days, he anticipates seeing a lot of teams signing players to extensions because they've got the money now to do that. The free agent pool is not super exciting right now, this offseason. And I wonder if that trickles down to the Chiefs at all. You've got a handful of players that, from the 2022 draft class that are now eligible for extension. So not even talking about necessarily the free agents that the Chiefs have. Do you anticipate any kind of movement there from any of those guys that are now eligible for extensions or maybe restructures?
It's kind of interesting just because there's not a ton of guys that basically all of the Chiefs' massive contributors have been drafted within the last 2 or 3 years. So these questions are going to be having to be answered in the next 2 years. So not quite yet. And so I understand that question right now. But in the case of like a Nick Bolton, that's the only guy I'm really worried about that the Chiefs that they need to bring back. But there are a lot of linebackers in this free agency field. And kind of like what you're saying, it's not the most attractive free agency market because of the position of players that are there. A lot of linebackers, a lot of corners that are really, really good. It's just that a lot of people got a lot of really good linebackers and corners, including the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, you mentioned Bolton and what. Don't you think they need to bring back a Minihue, though? Like if they
for
can?
sure. Yeah, he's another one. He kind of slipped my mind. And he's another one where it's like I think he's another one where it's like the franchise is more saying we're bringing you back where we want to win a Super Bowl with you in it. And I think it's more of a motivation signing as opposed to them bringing him back because he adds that much value when he does. But as an aging defensive lineman, we'll see as that goes moving forward. And this is a smart franchise that does look forward to things like that.
Let's talk a little bit about offensive line, which, of course, is a major issue, a major priority, you would think, for Brett Veach in this offseason, especially at left tackle. The last few days have been really interesting looking at some of the pending free agents that are out there at left tackle, including Ronnie Stanley, who's probably the premier number one free agent left tackle that's on the market right now. A lot of projections have him going for about a 2-year, $40 million deal. And of course, the salary cap has been raised in the NFL. Is that a move that, number one, is even plausible for Kansas City to try to find a way to do something like that? Do you think they have the appetite or the interest to try to make something like that happen?
I think it's interesting. They've spent a lot of capital at the position of offensive tackle, whether it be Jawan Taylor's contract, Kingsley Suamataia. I know that we've talked about it a number of times, whether or not they're going to figure that out. We've got a long offseason ahead of us, depending on what I think Andy Reid will be confident going into week 1, no matter what the decision is, whether it's Kingsley Suamataia, another guy, or if it is Ronnie Stanley, whomever it is, they're going to make that decision and be confident in it in week 1. And so I'm not sure. Again, the Chiefs don't tend to be flashy in free agency until it comes to the offensive line position, and in the offseason in general. They've traded for Orlando Brown Jr., signing Jawan Taylor. These are big moves, just not the sexiest of positions, unfortunately. And so I think that it's going to be interesting to see with a little bit more money and where Ronnie Stanley sits as a former Baltimore Raven. Does he want to be a Kansas City Chief? And does he want to run it back with the Baltimore Ravens? Does he? And it's just different things like that we do have to face in the NFL. Like, finally, the Chiefs they've been slain as Goliaths, and so do people want to join them? Maybe, maybe not. And it's more of a case-by-case basis if they do have the money to spend.
What's your preference then? If they have the money to spend, if they could go, if I told you they can sign Ronnie Stanley, they could get him as a free agent, or they could trade for a lineman, as they've done several times in the past, that isn't on that big contract yet. You might get him for, let's call it 2 seasons, which has, I think, been the model with Orlando Brown and what they thought they were doing with Jawan Taylor.
Right.
Or they just draft somebody. What's your preference?
I think draft somebody is probably my least favorite one, because they're drafting at 31. You're not getting any of the best tackles in the draft, because those guys are going in the top 10 or top 15 at the worst. I think trading someone is a little bit more, I don't like it as much either, because you're losing assets, and we know that Brett Veach, and just with the contracts that the Chiefs have currently, draft picks are as valuable as they possibly can be. And then so I think that signing Ronnie Stanley now, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about it, talking with you guys now, that makes the most sense. Like, just pie in the sky. Hopefully it happens, but
depending
probably
on
not.
your evaluation of the player, though, right? Why are the Ravens going to let him walk? That always that keeps popping in my head. Like, if he's elite, like, he's going to get paid. Why are the Ravens letting him walk?
And it was the same thing with Orlando Brown Jr. And we talked about this a number of weeks ago. Had a productive couple of seasons, won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. Like, he was pretty good. And I mean, I know that the hindsight isn't always 20/20 on that particular case, but didn't allow a sack that entire 2022 run against the Eagles, and would have loved to have something like that in this past Super Bowl. So he's also a guy why the Ravens let him walk, but that was more because he wanted to play left tackle instead of right tackle. With Ronnie Stanley, it seems to be injuries, and they're just kind of like, all right, we don't know what else to do with you. But the Chiefs, what are the other options out there for you as a franchise at that particular position? Because it's like looking for basically a quarterback, because God only makes a handful of 6'6", 320-pound dancing bears that can just figure it out, you know? And so that's why, like, Christian Darrisaw, he got hurt in Minnesota this year. Them getting Cam Robinson from Jacksonville was huge, because, like, that never happens. And so you would have wished that the Chiefs would have had an opportunity like that. Now, with the offseason, different things can be moved around. I'm still a believer in Kingsley Suamataia, but if Ronnie Stanley's a guy out there and can be available now and ready to go, and potentially win a Super Bowl with, and have a guy be a cornerstone player there for the next couple seasons, why not?
Well, you know, if the drafting of a left tackle is your least favorite option for Kansas City to solve the left tackle situation, then what do you think they ought to do at pick 31? I mean, I know we've seen we're in mock draft season right now, and everybody's throwing out their, ideas and thoughts for what the Chiefs ought to do at 31. Is it a defensive player? Is it, maybe another offensive weapon, a tight end or something? Like, what do you anticipate the Chiefs will do at 31?
I think that one that you mentioned right there at the end, the tight end position, has interested me, because I like Colston Loveland out of Michigan. I know that Noah Gray is probably the heir apparent at that position once Travis Kelce retires, whether that's this offseason or next offseason or whenever he decides to. I want the Chiefs to get a little fun. We haven't seen them get fun in the draft up until last year. They draft the fastest player in the entire draft. But I think I want to see them get another weapon, because maybe we'll see if DeAndre Hopkins comes back. We'll see if Hollywood Brown comes back. But I want to see them get another weapon in that room, just to see what they can do, because, frankly, this offense is not good. Like, it's just not fun to watch. And we know the talent of the quarterback, the talent of the play caller, and if you can get more talent in the receiver room or even the tight ends room or running backs room, whatever that may look like, you might as well do it in the first round. And especially with the roster as good as it is, there's not a ton of players that could make this team in other spots. Like, other than offensive line, which we've talked about, you're not going to find guys unless they're in the top 10. You need to find players in other spots that can do other things for you other than the things that you can't fill holes in.
What about offensive weapons? Let's say Kelsey does come back, but Rashee Rice is suspended for 8 games. We don't know what's going to happen with Hollywood. We don't know what's going to happen with Juju. We don't know what's going to happen with DeAndre Hopkins. So right now it's kind of Xavier Worthy and maybe Kelsey and half of Rashee Rice. Who knows when the suspension comes? The Chiefs were a middle-level offense last year. Like, they were mediocre statistically. They were mid-level offense last year. Now, a lot of that had to do with injuries. Are we really comfortable with rolling into next year? Even if Kelsey does come back, or do they still need to go address that and get some weapons in there?
I think you're hoping that Xavier Worthy has developed and you're getting him in year 2, and hopefully he doesn't get hurt like Rashee Rice did. You're hoping that something like that happens. But with him being a smaller player, that's always going to be a worry whether or not he's going to be as sustainable as possible. That's why I think you have to use pick 31 on offense, whether that be running back, tight end, whatever the case may be, because honestly, I think the Chiefs should run the ball more this upcoming season because that's what they missed virtually down the stretch for like the last 8 games of the season. So I think that you have to use that pick 31 on someone on offense because because of what you're saying, you don't know what's going to happen in everywhere else. You might as well start developing with your quarterback moving forward.
Let's talk about Travis Kelce for a little bit. It sounds like, at least according to his brother Jason, that he's got his mind made up. He's got a decision ready to go on whether or not he will return. I think that everything is trending to the fact that he's going to come back and play. And I've never really been overly concerned that he won't be back. But I do think that, regardless of him returning or not, and this kind of goes into the whole conversation about, bringing in potentially more offensive weapons, whether through the draft or re-signing some guys or whatever, I do think that they're going to have to tweak their offensive game plan a little bit just because of the reliance historically on Travis Kelce. And regardless if he's back or not, if he's not back, you have no choice. If he is back, I think you do have a little bit more flexibility to maybe start to ease him out of having such a major, like, integral role in that offense. He's always going to be dynamic, but I do think it's going to be important for Kansas City to start game planning the future.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I think, and when we talk about the Rashee Rice suspension, whether or not that's going to happen, him getting reintegrated back into this offense is going to be important, whether it comes through training camp or the few weeks he's allowed to practice up until he's allowed to return. Xavier Worthy, his development is going to be huge. I can't wait to see if he's in Texas hanging out with Patrick Mahomes, working out, throwing around with him. But Travis Kelce, it's hard for me to believe that he's ever going to end his career on a loss, whether that's in the Super Bowl or the last game of the regular season, and it's the Chiefs are 5-11 and weren't making it to the playoffs anyway. I think that he's just that type of football player, and we talked about it last week. He's deserved to go out on his shield. He's done everything you could have ever asked for from a football player, and particularly at his position, he's the best of all time to ever do it. He can kind of just go out with a whimper if he wants to, and he's going to be productive all the way throughout. We saw throughout the playoffs, and obviously the Super Bowl is a harsh mark on it, but he was a productive player, maybe not as effective and dominant as he once was, but he's still Travis Kelce. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs do moving forward, because I've been saying it for the last couple years, but they've needed to do something different on offense, but it's just been working out for them. And now on the biggest stage, it was like watching the worst movie by the best directors and actors and whatever. So we know that they're capable of doing great things. They just didn't do it there.
I got one for you, Felix. You put this out on Field Vision, and it's called Threat and Havoc Ratings around the league. You can go to Field Vision and see this from Felix. What does that mean? And are any of those type of players on a Chiefs radar? And I'm going to guess that it allows you maybe to identify maybe some more under the radar guys that could be values in acquiring them.
Right. Threat and Havoc. Now we've got our super math people. They handle that a little bit more. So Jack Tay Stats on X is the guy I would follow if you guys are looking for more of your hard hitting data stuff, because Threat and Havoc they're supposed to value more production over the more narrative stats, which is catches, yards, and touchdowns and different things like that. Like Zach Bond, we was running in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. We're on him from the beginning of the year. Like, he was a player from the start of the year that was going to be dominant. Eric Kendricks, Bobby Wagner, Paulson Adebo. These are just guys that I'm looking at the top of the list on our free agency list. But these are guys that were really good, but you really wouldn't pay attention to because they play for the Saints or they're a player on the Commanders defense. Like, you're not paying attention to these guys, but they have legitimate value. And going into free agency, these are things that you can look at on our app and everything that you can see these guys have actual value. And we'll be coming out with a bunch of different things here coming up soon that has some different things correlating to their actual value when it comes to dollar amount and different fits that they might have coming up in free agency. But Threat and Havoc are our metrics to measure how good a player actually is, if that makes any in layman's terms, if you will.
Anybody on there that the Chiefs ought to be looking at that you guys have seen so far?
It's kind of interesting. I mean, to me, the only guy that the Chiefs ought to be looking at is a guy that's already on their roster, and that's Nick Bolton. Other than that, you should be filling holes, trying to fill out depth pieces. And then, like you said, we haven't infiltrated all of our offensive line metrics yet, and that's where the Chiefs would be looking at mostly. Right. And so Ronnie Stanley, like we talked about here today, that would be a guy I would say, yeah, the Chiefs should be looking there. But there probably are a few guys that the Chiefs should be looking at in the offensive line. I just don't have them in front of me quite yet. But I mean, defensively, we know that the Chiefs are probably good because all the guys are either under contract, super young, and then offensively, there's a few holes. But we talked about how do you fill those in free agency, other than unless you make a big splash move.
He's our Chiefs insider, Felix Johnson. Follow his work at Field Vision. Follow his work at Arrowhead Addict, and you can follow him on social at Felix R. Johnson. It's going to be a wild offseason. Felix, glad to have you on board. Can't wait to dig through it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, gentlemen.
There goes Felix Johnson. You can go back and listen to any of that on the Odyssey app that you might have missed. Good stuff there. Yeah, don't you wonder that sometimes with Ronnie Stanley, Tommy? Like, why are they letting him go? Why would you let a left tackle go?
They don't grow on trees, so it's funny because almost every article that I've read about Ronnie Stanley, there's really not a whole lot of talk about him being re-signed. So I don't know if it's, he's not interested in returning to the Ravens, or the Ravens are willing to let him walk. I don't know, but I haven't, maybe I'm missing something. I haven't seen really much at all talking about whether or not if he's even going to return to Baltimore.
Here's the problem. And I think I've said this before. Like, I'm not qualified to dig into the resumes of offensive linemen unless they play for the team I watch like every play of. Like, I can tell you what I think of the Chiefs offensive line because we're watching every play of every game. But when you're watching like Red Zone or whatever it is, however it is that you consume the NFL, or maybe you catch them just in prime time, like, that's hard to say one thing or the other about that particular position because you're not seeing them in their consistency and all these things. Baltimore wants to win a Super Bowl next year. They're really going to let their left tackle walk? I don't have a strong take one way or the other, but I think it's worth paying attention to. All right, news with the Shockers as it pertains to the TBT. We'll have that next for you on Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message, so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily here on KFH. Shocker Talk tonight here on 97.5, 1240 KFH. Tune in at 6 for the Terry Nooner Coaches Show, followed at 7 by the Paul Mills Coaches Show. You can listen here on KFH, KFHradio.com, or download the Odyssey app and search for KFH. Tommy, you sent me this with the shockers as it pertains to the TBT just a few minutes ago. So what is the latest here and what do we know?
Yeah, so the TBT returning to Wichita for, I believe it's the record 6th season in a row for Wichita State to host the TBT. Always a lot of fun each summer. It provides really great basketball entertainment here in the city, and it's coming back again in July 18th through the 23rd, and so definitely a big deal to have TBT back at the Roundhouse.
So here's the twist, though, that I saw that's interesting, and I think this is awesome. I have no problem with it. We'll dig in a little bit on it. Apparently this year, teams will have the opportunity to host all the way through the championship. And so what would happen in theory is if you had like 2 regional host teams make it through, whichever team sold the most tickets gets the opportunity to host a championship game. Now, I think it's awesome. What I got to figure out still, and maybe you've been able to surmise this, Tommy, does that mean only if it's the Aftershocks, for instance, that do that? Or does Wichita have the opportunity no matter who the team coming out of the region is?
No, it's only the host team. If the host team
not the host city.
Not the host city, the host team will have the opportunity for home court advantage all the way through. So if another team wins the Wichita Regional that's not the Aftershocks, then it looks like, at least from the way I read, that's not part of it. But still, I mean, that favors Wichita State. We're talking about a city here in Wichita that has had record TBT crowds over the years that they've hosted. And so if you end up with a tiebreaker, and I don't know how likely that is, if you've got 2 host cities or 2 host teams that are matched up together and you have to have a tiebreaker, I'm not sure how likely it is that that's going to happen. But if it does, I think that tiebreaker does absolutely benefit Wichita State and the Aftershocks, because we've had historically really, really large crowds coming out to cheer on that team.
And look, I think it's a smart idea for the TBT to do this. By the way, they in that article at Kansas.com, they talk about, there's quotes from the group, like they owe a lot of success to Wichita, and they absolutely do, right? What Wichita has done with that tournament is reignite like the appeal of it. And I think you've seen other cities try to match Wichita, and Wichita's been used as an example. And it has made this tournament a bigger deal than it was before they started to come play games in Wichita. There is no doubt about that. If you have been into one of those games where it's a great crowd and it's awesome. It is so fun. People that listen to this show a lot know that I think the Elam ending, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it should be the way we end all basketball games. I'm that fond of what it does for the game at the end of a game. Like it's great. And so, yeah, this is a small organization trying to make it. If they want to play it wherever they want to play it because they know it'll sell more tickets, good for them. That's what they should be doing, right? Who cares where they play the game? Go where you're going to sell the most tickets. And it's also another reason why it's why we have the NCAA tournament back. It's why people are so excited about that. Wichita has a long history of being very supportive of these types of things, especially when it involves the teams that people in Wichita care about.
Well, and let's think about this too. So, if the Aftershocks, let's say they make it all the way to the championship, but it's not held in the host city, how many people realistically in this market are going to travel for the TBT, to go? And there probably will be some, but it's not going to be massive, right? I don't think. But if it's here, if the Aftershocks are playing for a championship and they get the opportunity to host a championship game here, how many people in the city are going to go out? And I'm not just saying that's just the Aftershocks. I think that's in general. I think any team, I know Syracuse, Boeheim's Army, they've been successful in years past. And you've had all these other alumni teams and whatever that have been really successful. I would imagine that any host team that gets a chance to host a championship, you're going to get a really good turnout for that, as opposed to fans traveling to a different city for a championship.
They're not going to travel.
I don't think the TBT is that sort of thing. So I do think I think it's a smart move in general, regardless of, who ends up playing for a championship, to be able to have that, host team potentially be able to host that in that city.
You could play a championship game in Chicago and you might have 10 or 15 Shocker fans be able to make that trip. You have it in Wichita and you might have 10,000, right? That's pretty easy. And, for the TV network, who cares, right? They don't care. And for they're going to broadcast the game either way. So if you're the TBT, you're going to want to put it where you're going to get the most butts in the seats. I mean, it's simple. So I think it's a great idea. And it feels a little like, and maybe we're, biased in this, but it feels like a rule that's been put in place to benefit the aftershocks, which is, again, if they're going to put the most butts in the seats every single year, then okay, fine. Like there's a tournament trying to make money, right? They don't have NCAA. Like they're not trying to keep things fair. They're trying to make money.
And remember, they're giving $1 million away to the winning team, right? So the pot is pretty large, and that's what part of the reason why it makes it so exciting. According to the Kansas.com article from Taylor Eldridge, Connor Frankamp, Rashard Kelly, both committed to play on this team again. And it's always so much fun. I mean, like getting a chance to see those guys back in action. We don't know who else is going to be returning at this point to the team, but we know that Frankamp and Kelly will be. We'll get the return of the Wheat Mamba. Isn't that the nickname that was bestowed upon Connor Frankamp in this tournament? So we'll get the return of that this year again. So yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's exciting. I'm glad that they're coming back to Wichita. I didn't realize until I read this article, TBT's been around for 11 years. Like we're going on 11 years for this thing. And that's pretty impressive. I didn't realize it had been over a decade.
Well, and not over a decade in Wichita, but a lot of those years.
But in general, I mean, 11 years in the TBT. That's huge.
I wonder, and this is again, we're rose-colored glasses because we're fond of the place that we live. You think they'd still be going if it wasn't for the success Wichita has seen in all these years? Because I would be curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I again, we're looking at this through the lens of just Wichita. I don't know how the other hosts, I know there have been other host sites that have challenged Wichita for attendance records and things like that. So I know that there are a couple of other cities that do really well for this, but yeah, I mean, I think a large integral part of their success over the last decade plus has been because of Wichita.
It's a fun tournament. If you haven't ever seen it, it's worth getting out to. It's fun. And it helps too that the actual Shockers are on a nice run right now. Like if they were to finish this season strong and reignite a fan base. I'm curious when we talk about butts in the seats, home games, the Shockers have 2 more home games. One will be an 8:00 tip on a Thursday, advantageous for attendance, and a 1:00 tip on a Sunday, which is fine for attendance. They got 2 opportunities to put some butts in the seats. I'll be very curious to see if they're able to do that based on the 6-game win streak that they're on currently. Thursday at 8:00, national TV audience, it's the league. Like that's much better than Thursday at 6:00 as it comes to attendance because it's hard to get to the game by 6:00. So we'll see. But in all of this with the Shockers, it is interesting to think about like what kind of momentum among the fan base can be generated in a final, because what are we looking at here? 3-4 when this all started on basically in February. So let's call it a month and a half, 6-week stretch. Like, can that be enough to recapture a fan base? I guess we'll have a chance to find out with these last 2 home games and see, what kind of crowds turn out for them.
I think it should be a pretty good crowd, I would imagine. I know the last home game when they were able to get that win against Tulane, the crowd was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Maybe a little bit above average in what we've been able to see, throughout the course of this season. So, I think especially knowing there's only a couple of home games left, and they've been able to get that, sort of momentum and be able to, I think, reinvigorate a lot of folks. Yeah, I would imagine that we'll see a pretty good turnout.
So just the last 3 listed attendances, and Tommy used to work in ticketing. You know how that works. 5,600 for UTSA. I don't think so. 6,200, 6,300 for Memphis. I would guess that's just about all of those. And then 60, an even larger crowd listed for Tulane, which we know obviously did not happen. So it's hard to say. It's easy to say when they're all sellouts, right? You can just, they're sellouts. You don't see any empty seats, but I hope that trend continues for them. it's going to go a long way. Any momentum built for the Shockers in this final 4-game stretch and into that, whether or not they make the NCAA tournament, which would obviously be the most helpful. I do think it helps Paul Mills, Kevin Saul, and the administration. We should have Kevin Saul tomorrow. I know it's been a while. We keep playing, a little tag there with Kevin Saul. But we should have him tomorrow. I'll ask him, like, how much has a streak like this helped in their efforts, in the NIL efforts, in the efforts to, because we talk about it all the time. They've got Corey Washington, hopefully, coming back next year. And it's a lot of question marks. Like, they're going to build this momentum here, and then they have to sort of do a retool again. And it's like the success now sort of dictates the potential success later, or vice versa, in a bad way, right? Like, it's going to be harder to go retool if they don't have this momentum and this enthusiasm going forward. So it's a pretty critical here couple of weeks for the Shocker basketball program and what it looks like, I think, big picture over the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you've got one big opportunity remaining in the Final Four on the road at North Texas. That is projected to be a quad 1 game. Wichita State in quad 1 games this season, they're 0-2. So you've got an opportunity to be able to try to get one on the board in a quad 1 type setting. It's going to be tough. I mean, obviously North Texas is a really good team. They hung with North Texas inside Koch Arena not that long ago. So you've got an opportunity on the road there. And then the other games, a couple of quad 3 and quad 4 games where they haven't been outstanding. They've been fine, but they haven't been outstanding in those games against the, opponents that they should be beating. So still, I mean, obviously that opportunity down the stretch, I think that, a good realistic expectation should be 3-1 in those final 4 games, if not 4-0, right?
3-1 keeps the momentum. I was just going to say that. I think a 9-1 stretch to end the season is just fine. I didn't realize until you just said it. I cannot believe Memphis is not a quad 1 win.
Yeah,
that's wild.
It's a quad 2 win because it was
I know.
At home. I mean, I would imagine that's why it was.
But it's at home. But Memphis is where's Memphis in the net right now? Like, Memphis is high enough in the net where I figured that'd be a quad 1 win either way.
Yeah, the Memphis game in Memphis was a quad 1 game, but the Memphis game in Wichita was quad 2.
Man, that's a bummer. I didn't realize that until you just said it. But anyway, they got an opportunity. They don't play till Thursday. That's going to be a fun one again. UAB's good. Like, UAB's one of the good teams in the league. So it's a national TV game. These opportunities are there. People are starting to talk about the Shockers a little. People have always talked about the Shockers because their net was high. I think whenever you watch them on TV, people have been high on them. So it's all there for them. It rolls right into that TBT success. It all kind of plays off of each other. It's time for that next generation of the Shockers that people are coming to see the TBT for, right? Like, what can catapult one off of the other? But that bit of news did fall. All right, we got a little more Sports Daily coming your way. Don't go away. It's Albrock and Castor on a Tuesday.